The Doctor Who BBC Centenary Special is coming up in October, and with the special episode being Jodie Whittaker's final adventure as the 13th Doctor, we're also getting guest stars of the Doctor's former companions. Sophie Aldred is returning as Ace, a companion of the 7th Doctor. But who is Ace, and what's so special about her character that she's returning in the upcoming special episode? Well, let's explore more. Welcome to TARDIS Central. I'm your host, Zephyr's Voice, and let's get into it. Whether you've met her before or not, hold on to your hats, as this is the episode of Doctor Who Explained, where we talk about one of the Doctor's most faithful companions. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Doctor Who news, lore, and more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at TARDIS Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Doctor Who universe. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Doctor Who, then we want to hear about it. Ace was a rebellious spirit from the start and through her teenage years. She was a very determined, if sometimes slightly reckless person. Though her real name was Dorothy Gale McShane, she didn't care much for her mother Audrey's choices. Between them was a very fraught relationship, and instead she decided from a young age to go by the nickname of Ace. Ace first joined the 7th Doctor by luck in the story Dragonfire, when she met him on Svartos. Though originally from London in 1987, on one September day, she had accidentally been thrown through time and space by what seemed to be a science experiment gone wrong. After dealing with the malicious Kane and his troops, the 7th Doctor offered to take her with him on his adventures, and, eager for something more exciting, she jumped at the chance. However, it wasn't long before Ace was both in the midst of danger and coming up against a very complicated situation in her timeline. Helping the Doctor as he put into motion a master plan against two warring factions of Daleks, Imperials and Renegades, she not only fought Daleks head-to-head, but also with a baseball bat. Ace also briefly encountered a young man called Charles Smith whilst in search of the Doctor. Unbeknownst to the young Ace, Charlie had in fact fallen through a tear in space-time after meeting her in 2016, and was also caught in the Dalek battle for power.
Not my style. Well, not always.
Hang on. I know you.
Don't think so.
I do. We met earlier, only you were... it's complicated.
We haven't met. I'd remember. Especially dressed like that. You look weird.
Whereas you blend in perfectly.
Yeah, well, I'm not from around here.
Neither am I. Well, in a way I am, but...
Following the Doctor's destruction of Skaro and the defeat of both Dalek factions with the help of her, they both sped off on many more adventures, including tackling malicious leaders, Cybermen, gods, the legendary Morgaine of Arthurian fake lore, and Eve being determined to stop the process of evolution itself. Before Ace discovered that she'd been a pawn in a far greater plan. Travelling to a coastal village in the Second World War and meeting Dr. Judson, who had invented an Ultima machine that could decipher German messages. It came to her knowledge that the adventure was part of a long-standing game between the Doctor and an ancient body-stealing evil called Fenric. Her arrival on Iceworld had not been an accident, but part of Fenric's scheme, transporting her there via a time storm so that the Doctor would discover her, and knowing that there was something suspicious about her presence there, take her with him. Ace had not been aware of this, but the Doctor had been, and was also carefully navigating his friendship with her. Ace's presence at the military base at the coastal village also had its unforeseen consequences. Having connected with one of the women's staff at the base, Kathleen and her baby Audrey, whom Kathleen had been hiding on the base after the death of her husband, Frank McShane. Ace had convinced Kathleen to flee the base with baby Audrey, while she had the chance to escape Fenric and the monstrous Haemovores that he'd made a deal with, in a bid to ensure that the Earth would become a dirty mess in the future. As Fenric revealed to Ace in their confrontation, the baby Audrey was actually Ace's mother, and that, in saving Kathleen and Audrey, Ace had created her future existence. As the battle against the Haemovores escalated, the Doctor was forced to break Ace's faith in him, so that the leader of the Haemovores, the Ancient One, was freed from a barrier created by her faith. Rather than the Ancient One killing Ace, as Fenric had hoped, the Ancient One killed Fenric, putting an end to his plan. Comforting Ace after this difficult experience, she then continued traveling with him. Sometime after, many adventures later, during the year 1990, the Doctor took Ace to the ruins of the city of the Astingir. The city had been destroyed by their war with creatures known as Wraiths, but not before the Astingir had completed the construction of the Quantum Anvil, a pit of energy that could be used to fracture the time stream of anything that entered it into infinite potential futures. Though annoyed with him for dragging her there so he could check on the anvil to ensure that it wasn't malfunctioning and damaging the rest of the universe, she remained with him in the ruins. However, a catastrophic series of tremors threw Ace off balance while she was standing near the anvil, and one of her arms slipped into the anvil's energy. The resulting contact showed Ace a multitude of potential futures for herself, including dying in an explosion, marrying in the past, becoming part of Gallifreyan society, and even the possible future Fenric was hoping for, where the Earth became a polluted mess. Ace was pulled free from the anvil by the Doctor, but as they swiftly fled from the remaining Astingir, he accidentally revealed that he had intended for Ace to make contact with the anvil. To Ace's horror, the Doctor had secretly hoped by having her make contact with the anvil and the Wraiths trapped within, that Ace would one day be useful as a potential peace emissary with the Wraiths if they ever happened to escape. Unable to use himself due to his long history of time travel, he'd instead used Ace, without her permission or knowledge, just as Fenric had done so. In the resulting escape, Ace was forced to try and halt the Astingir from executing them both by throwing a can of her trusty homemade explosive, Nitro 9. Unfortunately, the resulting explosion unsteadied the ground beneath the Astingir, and they plunged to their deaths. Ace and the Doctor clambered into the TARDIS. Ace, filled with anger at the Doctor's deception and grief at the deaths of the innocent Astingir, told the Doctor that it was time for her to say goodbye. Ace's encounter with the Quantum Anvil leaves it uncertain as to what she would do in the times following her departure. Big Finish Audios suggested that Ace would later call the Doctor back to Earth for assistance on occasion, and that she would go to Gallifrey to train at the Time Lord Academy, ultimately joining the Celestial Intervention Agency. With her ultimately being ditched back on Earth during the events of the Time War, her memories of Gallifrey were erased, and her timeline once again altered in some manner. At any rate, based on the potential polluted, decayed future she'd seen for the Earth, Ace would go on to feel that she ought to do something for her world. And this resulted in her founding the charity A Charitable Earth to pursue the aim of helping orphans and other children in need. With the charity becoming well known by the 2010s, Ace would also live a double life, operating as the charity's CEO by day and dealing with a collection of alien items by night, or sometimes even doing both simultaneously. However, around 20 years after having returned to Earth and settling in for her charity work, Ace's life was disrupted by the Seventh Doctor suddenly returning into her life. Needing to trap a fellow renegade from Gallifrey, the 11, they worked together to trick the 11 into believing Ace could be a viable ally in his plans to unlock the Dark Universe. Though the 11's plans would ultimately be foiled, the two would fall out again over the Doctor's dealings with the Dark Universe citizens. One way or another, it seems that Ace would eventually come to forget these occurrences. Sometime after this, in 2016, while in the middle of a charity dinner, Ace became aware of a temporal anomaly at Coal Hill that had come from 1963, specifically a tear between the present day and the time when she'd first encountered the Daleks. Hoping to deal with the tear before it became a problem, simply, her plan was complicated by the arrival of Charlie Smith and Miss Quill. And Quill had put motion sensors within the premises and had mistaken Ace's presence for a potential threat. This confrontation, unfortunately, allowed an Imperial Dalek to come through from the fighting in 1963, and for Charlie to get lost in the past accidentally. Whilst Charlie encountered the younger Ace, and drew the attention of many of the Imperial Daleks around Coal Hill in the 1960s, Ace and Quill set about trying to deal with the lone Dalek in the present before it could return to the past with information about the events of Remembrance of the Daleks that could help its squadron evade defeat. Ace utilized the science labs to concoct a can of her Nitro 9 and was able to use it to damage the Dalek significantly. In the aftermath, she was tied up by Quill in what seemed to be a betrayal. Quill was deliberately tricking the Dalek so that she could take it back into the past and recover Charlie before leaving it to be destroyed by the military, just as it was about to deliver its gained intel. Though somewhat annoyed by this strategy, satisfied by the aversion to catastrophe, Ace bid them both farewell on good terms and told them to let her know if they should ever need her assistance in the future. But that story's not quite done there, as in 2020, on what seemed like a regular day, a UFO came into orbit around Earth. Catching news coverage of the matter, Ace would quickly negotiate her way on a space probe craft, the Virgil, that was scheduled to be launched soon after. Undergoing the Virgil voyage, she spacewalked from the probe and onto the UFO. Entering it, she met Graham, Yaz and Ryan, and reunited with the Doctor at long last. Though somewhat distrustful of the Doctor, she readily accepted the reunion and the help offered in dealing with the UFO. Working together, they would soon get caught up in a plot to at last free the Wraiths from their imprisonment within the Quantum Anvil by Halogi Kari, the very individual that Fenric had dispatched to whisk Ace through space-time to Iceworld in the first place. With Ace abducted by Halogi Kari, the Doctor and the gang would come in pursuit, eventually finding that she'd made contact with the Wraiths via the Anvil and taken up an emissary position, communicating to them and the incoming forces of the Astingir that the Wraiths no longer wished to fight in the wars. Having seen their potential futures just as Ace had, they now felt compelled to take on a peaceful way of life. Ace took up her position to broker a peace between the Wraiths and the Astingir, sending a note back to Earth for her friend Will, explaining to him the events that had occurred, and telling him to run a charitable Earth in her absence until such a time came that she would be free to return. And so lies the story of Ace so far, more or less. It's always a very timey-wimey and challenging thing to put together. The BBC Centenary special episode for Doctor Who will see Ace return to aid the Doctor once more. As revealed by the teaser trailer, Ace will also be joined by Tegan Jovanka, who was a companion of the 4th and 5th Doctors. Janet Fielding is said to reprise her role. It would seem that the pair haven't heard from the Doctor in some time, Ace saying 3 decades and Tegan saying 4. What the pair will eventually be doing in the special is unknown, though in the teaser trailer they can be seen firing assault rifles at incoming enemies. Currently, a theory suggests they'll turn up with Kate Stewart, head of unit, but for now we'll need to wait until more details come out. Let us know your theories on how much Ace remembers, and what you think she might get up to in the Centenary special in the comments section below. And if you want to keep up to date on all the latest Doctor Who news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at TARDIS Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Zephyr's Voice. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Smell the wind and feel the grass under your feet, and just run forever, fellow Whovians.